Welcome back to Millan Foundation Conversations. This week, we bring you a very special episode featuring a few individuals who joined our Millan team on our first community mission trip in September. They share how the experience impacted their lives, reflecting on the hope that grows brighter each time we serve others, and how in giving, we often feel even more blessed in return. They will be reading off questions we've curated for the group to answer. We hope you enjoy this episode as much as we did.
Welcome everybody to the Millan Conversations, and for the first time since we went on a mission trip, the group that went, besides Andrew, our son, is not here. We're here to discuss some of the mission trip, and we have some questions that were asked, and we're going to go through this bowl, answer some of the questions, and maybe you guys can get to know a little bit about this trip and the experience we all had. So we'll start it off with some questions, and I'll pull a question out of the hat. Let Lily read it out for us, and we'll go from there.
Okay, first question. Ethan and Kimberly, did this experience change how you see healthcare in places with fewer resources?
Definitely was very eye-opening that Americans are very lucky to have all the resources that we have. And it was very rewarding to be able to help less fortunate people. Some people have never seen an ultrasound. But it was, yes, very eye-opening and very rewarding.
To me, the most awesome part of it is that even though we had very little, we had everything we needed, even though we needed way more, if that makes sense. It was just the ultrasound machine was godsend, and that's the term we use because there's nothing else that I can use to describe it. It was crazy how we have so much here in this country. We have so much provided, and over there with the very little, everybody was so thankful in a way. So it changed my way in that I realized how blessed we are here, and how needed it is for us to do more of this kind of stuff everywhere else.
That ultrasound machine was the best thing that's ever, been in those areas. So Kimberly, thank you, and to you and Daniel for making that possible for this trip. That was huge.
Can't wait to go back.
It was fun.
That's awesome. And it seems like every trip we take, you think of like, how did you piece these people together? And it always seems like it's the right group, right? Like who would have thought that initially when we said that you guys said you wanted to come and you would bring your ultrasound machine, we're thinking, like, was there going to be use for it? And then turns out that it's like incredible that the amount of people that actually needed it. So thank you guys.
It was our pleasure. And I will say from the observation I've seen, the two of them work together fantastically. You guys were great. And to be able to be the eyes for Ethan, the doctor, I mean, I think from on the outside watching it all, that's what really, for me on this trip was like, wow, the doctor is actually getting on the spot imagery and can diagnose and see what's wrong. And you, with your experience, just, I think, shined immensely and gave the people what they needed.
We'll move on to the next question.
Oh, you're making me read it. Okay. Oh, this is for me and you. Leo and Lily, as leaders, how did seeing this mission come to life influence your future plans for the foundation? Do you want me to read it again?
No. Oh. You want to go first?
No, you could go ahead and go first.
For me, I always see like opportunity. And again, going back to the ultrasound machine, before we would go with limited resources. And for me, it just opens up the opportunity to say like, okay, we talked about like, okay, now we need an x-ray machine for Ethan to be able to have there. And it just, for me, it just expands knowing that the more diverse the group is. Most people would think like, well, they might not mesh, but the more diverse the group that we take is, or the more people we take that are willing to go, no matter what skill set they said, it's going to be used there. So I just see it as a great opportunity, where most people might see it as like, oh, how are you going to put this together?
Well, it was my first mission trip to Guatemala And even though I grew up going to Mexico and I saw a lot of things, a lot of poverty there, a lot of things that were needed, it was to go with the group. This amazing was life-changing for me, and I came back on fire, wanting to go back and help more people. And I've talked about it to a lot of people here in Clarksville, and people are excited. They want the opportunity to go next time, and I can't wait to go to Guatemala and Mexico and other places and help more people. It was great.
We'll get to the next question. Scott, you want to?
Did you discover any new skills or strengths in yourself on this trip? I think you.
Okay,
Is that
Dr. Ethan is pointing to me because at the end of the trip, the patients were looking to me as like I was the doctor, and I was like, okay, kind of playing the part. I was like, well, I've kind of learned a few things, and so it's kind of a joke between us now that I'm like Dr. Lily now, but I'm really not.
In all fairness, you did jump in there and was full on in, like you didn't. None of us knew what we were doing, but you jumped in there, and I was like, man, I mean, you would have thought she was a trained nurse. I mean, I swear.
Thank you, sir.
Nurse Lily.
Nurse Lily.
She has with 4 kids growing up, you become that.
I guess I'll grab a question. How would you like future mission trips to build on what we experienced here?
I think we didn't realize the magnitude of what we were getting ourselves into. At first, I think, when Kim and Ethan and I spoke at the beginning, we were like, oh, how many, patients are we expecting? We're like, oh, maybe a dozen or 2 dozen. And we ended up seeing, we counted them the other day, we ended up seeing over 100 patients in 3 days between the two of you guys. And that's a lot. And I think, there's still a lot of follow-up for those, a lot of those things that were issues that aren't fixed by one round of medication or one checkup or even one surgery. So I think, trying to figure out better ways that we can look at follow-up and, get them better resources to take on some of the issues that they have is going to be huge for us. And having future trips with other people that gives follow-up to those same patients we saw, it's not just a one visit and it's fixed. So as we, try to figure out what it looks like for other people to get involved in figuring out how we can keep, the process going for other people would be, what I would love to see for us as an organization to take on some of that stuff with other, doctors and healthcare professionals too.
Yeah, I think we definitely learned what we needed on the next trip and what worked and what didn't work. So I'm excited to see all the new things that we want to bring next time. And that's just going to keep building and building. And I can't wait to see where it goes and how many people we can help and medical equipment we can bring and use to help the people there.
I think what my first question, I answered it that we kind of had everything we needed, but we needed so much more. And this is exactly what I was talking about. This question will answer that. We had what we need for what I thought, right? But then I didn't expect to give you the exact answer. We saw 133 people in those between the two of us in that 2.5 days, right? U.S. clinics, they try to give you a lot, but nowhere near that. And while there's some patients that we saw, we had everything we needed for them. I think the hardest part for me, and just being who I am and what I like to do, we had a lot of people who we couldn't do anything for. Unfortunately, we just couldn't. We needed x-rays, we needed blood work, we needed education, we needed them to go do so many other things before they come back. We just could not do much. And I think that's the hardest part. And if I had the perfect way, is to have all that set up. We know how many we potentially could see, and we know exactly who to send them to on the spot. We have all the means and everything we needed so that they don't get lost. My fear is that some of those people won't hear from us and they might get lost in the culture, and we don't get to help them. And that is something I want to try to avoid. So that's
also the preventative stuff. I think we're all bought in. Maybe George can chime in a little bit on it seemed like it kept going back to the same thing, right? Like clean water. So maybe you can touch on it a little bit on what you saw.
Well, Clearly, I would say Ethan would agree, everybody would agree that the bulk of the people's problem that we saw was lack of water or lack of good water or no water because they were drinking Cokes. Cokes are cheap. They're everywhere. But if we can get them some clean water, maybe they might be able to be a little more healthy,
And then ironically, that's the group that went. So we got medical, and then we got people that are interested in trying to build build some wells, and we're halfway through there, and it's exciting to see that we're going to try to tackle all of it and not just put Band-Aids on the problems.
Yeah, when we talk about water, I think that's something that we all realized is education. When we're trying to tell people, like, you need to drink more water or water with lemon, that type of stuff is so important. So I think maybe for the next time when we go, we have like an educational packet or something like that they can learn and understand, because culturally they don't know, that what you put in your body so much is bad for you. They just think, oh, that's food. It's okay. It's in the bottle. This is you're supposed to drink this. So I think educating will be something that we can build on the next trip as well.
The good thing here is, you guys might not realize, I saw it as like we took nothing but problem solvers on that trip. So we saw not only, okay, we have to do this now, but how do we fix it next time? So that was exciting. Another question?
How has this trip changed your view of building community both here and at home?
Well, nobody's talking, so I guess I'll go. It didn't really change anything for me. It just reinforced. I think all of you here know that I'm big on, building assets and teams and whatnot with my background. And it just reinforced everything I believed in and just drove me more to want to do more and surround myself with other positive people like everyone sitting here. Because when we team up, we can change the world. And I think this trip was a prime example of that's exactly what we did. We changed lives for people. And it's such a wonderful thing to do. And we are blessed to be able to do it. And let's keep going.
This question brings to mind something I mentioned earlier is it reminds me of just love. Like, I feel like we're all a family, like our Guatemala family. And it's so amazing that a community from the U.S. can go to another country and make such a huge impact. Life-changing and awesome.
I think for me, it's changed a little bit about how I look at, Leo mentions it every once in a while, I'm not a type of person that wants to ask for help in any type of, I'm not like to go and ask other people to get involved. But when that first day when we saw the line of people waiting to see a doctor, you're like, man, we need more doctors, or we need more, people to get involved. And I think, and I got a chance to go back again with another group in October, and seeing that, with even what they were trying to do, we need help, or we need other people to get involved that we can take and do it. So it's one thing we're like, okay, we're trying to tackle it, the Millan Foundation or whatever, but it's really going to be a thing where, there's going to be more people that need to be involved with us. That's not about credit. It's not about anything. It's just about getting other doctors, other healthcare professionals involved in that, and to prove that, you guys were the first person to take the step. How many more people can we get involved and join the team as a community, and get down there to do more work? And I think that'll be, kind of a growing step as we keep going forward.
Well, I kind of felt like when we first got there that I didn't understand the doctor thing, and I didn't understand the ultrasound thing, because I don't know nothing about that. And I thought, man, this, I was trying to figure out what we were going to do with it, and then, like Scott said, we pulled up there that morning, there's the people lined up all the way down the side of the school. And I was like, oh, it's on now. And I don't even, it was kind of funny and sad, but y'all did a great job helping them. So
it was such a selfless group, and that's what made me feel so good. And it was humbling. Like, none of you, it was long nights, stressful and whatever, but nobody was complaining, especially you two and the Dr. Lily, like, you know, that you guys just put in that time. And then, you know, at the same time we're building a kitchen, right? So we're doing all these multitasking things, which for me is exciting to see multiple things going on at once. But the humbling part again is just seeing you guys being so selfless and putting others first. And as you guys saw, a lot of things can happen when you aren't selfish.
Well, I know that we had to kind of force Kim and Ethan to eat, and at one point Kim had to go to the bathroom so bad, but she just would miss patients, so she didn't go to the bathroom for a long time till finally, I mean, we're like, come on, you gotta go to the bathroom. And it was hot in those rooms. It was like 100 degrees with humidity, and you guys did really good.
And you did amazing fanning me off. I was sweating.
Yes. I knew if I was hot, you were definitely hot too with that machine.
I think part of it, and I spoke with Kim about this while we were there. We were afraid that we'd miss something, right? And best example, and here's a little bit of storytelling for everybody. We, if you want to imagine what we did, we just basically took a school, turned it into a makeshift hospital, and try to do as many exams as we can. And when I found out that one of the first villages, 12 years was the number of the last time they had the doctor there. If I'm making it up, I apologize. But I remember it being not
correct. Many years.
Many years. And I was afraid that, you know, we had to leave. We had another school with people waiting on us, and we had to leave. We still needed to go see them. But we both had that fear of, if we stop early, we might miss something important. And the last person we had to see is one of our more severe cases. So I was very, very happy that we actually took that extra time and we got to see everybody, right? We would have missed something major with that patient.
For sure. We powered through, we got him done. And it was worth it.
Yeah,
it was
no
worth
one was
it.
turned away, which was, again, to credit to you guys, because you guys could have said, hey, listen, I've been going at this 12 hours. Let's just call it, because we were leaving to another town. And that's the other thing for maybe some of the listeners don't understand, like these areas we go to, like there's not like people flocking to go there to do mission trips. We've intentionally in the past always gone to areas that most people don't want to go because there is such a need there. And we initially started going there, or myself, Scott's been going there, but we started going because of the water, the wells, you know. And then I've been going on mission trips many years, and that was never in my head till George put it in my head to like, hey, we need to maybe want to dig some wells. So, you know, these chain of events that happen lead us to, turns out that we do need to get that water, but now we're helping hundreds of people at the same time. So we're not just fixing one problem, we end up fixing many problems. So thank you, George. I know I always talk about that well, but that would have never been in my wheelhouse. But now I feel like we're becoming experts at.
It'll be in the well house.
Yeah, yes, sir. Another question?
Let's see. How did the mix of backgrounds in your group change the way we approached our work? I grabbed a paintbrush, you know, because I don't like painting, but, you know, we had to get it painted, and they were doing triage over here. And so Andrew and I grabbed paintbrushes, you know, so that's my background.
I just think it was great how everybody adapted. We improvised. We had things that, you know, we needed and we didn't know, like, how are we going to set this up? Like a table or an exam bench. Like, what do we do? And hey, here's a desk. Let's take a desk. That became the exam table.
2 desks.
2 desks at one, yeah. Mats on another place. You know, I know Lily was looking at me one time like, what is Dan doing with this piece of cardboard? And I cut and made an ultrasound probe, or no, the gel holder. Ethan was in there, set up like a 3-room exam in one room. He had people set up at different benches. So the adaptation and the way everybody was able to improvise and didn't complain. Like, I think it was just said problem solvers. I think that was probably the best thing about this group. And we're all giving. So there was no whine and complain. It was like, this needs to be done. Let's do it.
What was the driver's name? I forget his.
Fernando.
𝗀𝗏 and Fernando were their drivers.
Well, I'm telling you, he jumped in there,
Yeah.
like, and translated, and, because he speaks enough English and he obviously speaks Spanish, and he jumped right in there and helped. I think he was diagnosed. So he was coming to Ethan and saying, hey, I think this guy's got such and such.
Yeah, it was. Well, even me, I felt like at the end when we were filling out the paperwork, I'm like, well, I don't know if you have this. We're going to see if we can, you start feeling like you can get the process down after seeing so many people.
The funny thing about that is I had Scott, and I had Fernando all at once doing the initial paperwork, and Fernando is the one who did it the longest with me. He was the superhero that day, all of you. But I think you too, at the end of it, you saw similar, everybody comes in with the same issues, right? Water is a big part of it. So kidney stones was really common because they don't drink water. But then we were afraid to tell them to drink the water because we saw what that was doing to them. So we were just stuck in the, but like, I would just tell Fernando, give him this protocol, and he immediately knows what that means. So I don't have to sit there and explain it to him, right? Scott was getting it toward the end because he saw so many of them, and he was just answering questions for them. And it was just crazy how it worked out.
Well, I thought that it was funny that not funny, but a lot of people came in with kidney stones and issues with, with their bladder. And I have suffered from kidney stones since I was in my 20s, and I understood what they were going through. I understood the pain, the suffering, and when they would come in and they would tell me first what was happening, in my head I was like, kidney stones. Do you have kidney stones? And obviously I can't diagnose them, but after Ethan and Kim saw them, a lot of them did have the kidney stones and bladder issues and UTIs, and I thought that for me to have experienced UTIs and kidney stones, and to go to an area where I don't know what the percentage is that is suffering from that, was just crazy, because I understood. And I think someone else in this group also has had kidney stones. Am I right? No,
it was in the previous group.
The previous group, it was Chris. Yeah.
While we're on this, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. While we're on the subject of kidney stones, I'm going to have a proud husband moment, because I've got to see my wife work a lot and do different things. But boy, to see her determination with that one woman, that she had fluid around her kidney, and my wife was not stopping. She was sweating. And if you've seen the movies where like doctor and they pat the forehead, like literally I'm patting her forehead with a paper towel as she's keeps going and diagnosing, just to find these kidney stones so she could lock it in that this was this woman's problem, because it was not easy to get the image. And she probably spent half an hour or more on that one patient just to get the perfect shot, so they knew exactly what was going on, so then they could diagnose properly and get the care that was needed. And you did amazing, babe.
Thank you.
One of the things I wanted to touch on before we answer another question is one of the life-changing moments, I think, for all of us, and when we stopped at the volcano site. And I'd love for somebody to tell the story on that quickly. Maybe George can touch on it, because it was a life-changing moment. I've been going on these trips for a long time, but it was quite the event.
Well, I'll start it off, but I'll start with ending it. When we were leaving and we were going back to the car, I'm not sure how far we went down the road, and me or Scott or Ethan I don't think we spoke. I mean, we were also taken back of what we just witnessed. Very humbling, for sure.
Maybe Scott can start.
Yeah. So there's basically back in August, like a month before we took this trip, Pastor Hector, who's a pastor that takes us down to his community in 𝗙𝗏𝗃. I was down visiting with him, and he took me by this village called San Miguel, that's in 𝗀𝗏𝗃. And we stopped, on the road, and he wanted to show me this village that had been devastated by the volcano in 2018. And so we walk up in the village, and he was showing me some stuff, and I thought it was neat. Took some pictures, put a pin on the map. I was like, oh, this would be cool to show teams in the future, where we came. And I looked back and I saw this, that the tin shack that we know that Euphemia lives in now, but there's a tin shack there. And I was like, I wonder if, a farmer has a little, shack back here for his tools or something. And then we, I didn't think much of it, got in the car and left. And I remember I was journaling that night and I was, like, oh, I need to, journal about, that San Miguel, and didn't think much of it. And then on our trip, we were driving by and I told Josue, I was like, hey, if we have time, let's stop. Or I told Fernando, let's stop right quick and see it so you guys could see it. And everyone was tired and everyone was like, I don't know if I really want to see it. Or I think Ethan was like, yeah, I want to see it. So we stopped and we got out and we walk up the road, the same road that I had been on, and we get back towards the back and they're all looking at it, taking pictures, and it's pretty impressive for just that sheer devastation of what the volcano took out was in itself is pretty big to look at.
Basically, a whole village got wiped out, and nothing is there now, and it's inhabitable, according to the government. Yeah, and so we were sitting there taking pictures, and then we're starting to walk back towards the car, and this lady comes, walking up, the path. You guys were there. Comes walking up the path, and I think Miss Lily stopped her and was like, "Hey, where do you live?" And she goes, right up here, in that same tin shack that I had seen a month ago that I was like, for sure it was not somebody's house. And, she started telling us about her story and was telling us about, the volcano. She was there on the day of the volcano. Her and her whole family were there, and she lost pretty much her whole family except for one of her sons. And she was actually sitting there and she was, as soon as she saw the eruption, started praying, God, please save me, please save me. And sure enough, the lava split around her, went pretty much full around her body, and she was saved, and she said that God told her that he was going to save her, but she needed her to stay there and tell her testimony, and to the people that were going to come by. And sure enough, we were one of the groups that came by and got to witness her testimony. But she lived in a really, maybe we can show some pictures of the house she lived in. It was one of the worst, like Leo said, one of the worst scenarios I've seen. How many members?
So she lost 56 family members, which was everyone in her family except her son-in-law.
Yeah.
Her son-in-law, which her son-in-law moved right after the eruption, but he moved to the big city and he ended up passing away. So it's just her. She has no relatives. She's on her own. A little church down the road does help her some, but they're also, it's a poor little town, so they can't do much, but she does go there and she showers. But Euphemia is her name. She sometimes goes without eating for days. When we were there, I believe it was third or fourth day without eating any food, and the church just so happened to have some tamales for her. So she was going to have a little meal that night. But her shack was just put together by some young kids with tin and I don't even know what other material.
Dirt floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just really one of the saddest stories the saddest stories I've ever heard.
But I think a lot of us were touched because of her faith and her positive outlook on this, which was incredible. You think she's probably one of the poorest people that you ever meet, and also lost all her family, and then still had probably more faith than us, to be truthful, and the great attitude she had. And we were going to pray for her before we left, and she ended up like having one of the most powerful prayers that I've ever been involved in. She was praying for us instead of the other way around. And so I think that's why a lot of us were so humbled and touched.
I mean, we were all in tears. She had us in tears. I mean, you can feel the presence of God, and that moment when she was praying for everyone. And it was just one of the most powerful prayers I have ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I think for the listeners to understand, like we say a shack, it's not even really a shack. I want you to think about going camping in the woods or in like a jungle rainforest in Guatemala, and you don't really have any shelter, and you grab what's on the ground or you find a piece of trash and you put it up. Rain was coming through. It was not waterproof. There was no electricity. There's no running water. There's not even a bathroom. There isn't really even a proper outhouse set up. So to understand how this woman lived in a devastated village from a volcano that the government didn't come in and fix or change anything. She is in the worst conditions, but her heart and her spirit were amazing. She's absolutely been touched by God. She shared it with us. She shared some other stories as well, as far as, I mean, we all remember when she said a few days earlier she was praying because she felt like she was at her wit's end, and she was even considering jumping in front of a truck to end her life. And then we showed up and she's like, my prayers were answered again. And I'm getting goosebumps, and it's incredible. So I think I can speak a little bit for all of us. It was probably one of our highlights of the trip, and to be able to witness such a miracle and to be involved in changing her life was just incredible. And I can't wait to see what else we're able to do for this woman, because she's very, very special.
And I think this last time that you went with the other group in October, you stopped by and you visited her.
Yeah, we got the chance to stop by and see her, and she had just been sick again, and of course she lives in those conditions. She gets sick quite often, but she's got faith, like you guys mentioned, like no other. And she was, again, praying for us about our travels and about our health and our families, and just to see her, still in those situations. She didn't ask for a thing. She the last time we'd given her stuff, but she didn't ask, for anything. The last time we were able to, share, being a 𝗀𝗃, knowing what a woman needs in that situation, because she's been there, she was able to, pack a bag full of stuff that she knew that Euphemia would need, and that everything that I feel like, she kept pulling stuff out of that bag, and I'm like, that's perfect. And we, she had a tarp in there. I was like, I didn't even tell her to bring a tarp. She had a tarp in there. We were able to tarp a roof, and then she had a knife and scissors and rope and all kinds of the stuff, the perfect things that, that she knew that she would need. And like going back to, the trip is always perfect. Like Sherry being in that situation after we had already been there, and I didn't even tell her what to bring, and she knew what to bring. And so it's just, it was good to see her again, and it's hopefully not the last time.
Yeah, though the good thing about our foundation is, it's easy to commit to saying, okay, we're going to help this lady out, and we're working out some logistics of getting her a permanent home, which is, again, exciting for us that went on that trip and seeing that situation, that, hopefully sooner than later she'll have her permanent home where she can live at peace and live out the rest of her life comfortable. So that is going to happen. That is a good thing about us. We don't have to go have 15 meetings about doing something like this. We're just going to go ahead and do it. So
absolutely, that was very powerful. I mean, the immediate action that was taken was incredible. I mean, these ladies here were given their clothes, given shoes, able to make executive decisions, give her some money so she could get food. I mean, it was immediate action, and it was fantastic. And I do admire that a lot about the foundation, how y'all can make things happen, make decisions, because sometimes in life, you don't have time to wait. You have to take action. And it's great to be involved with an organization that does take action.
Question?
Well, I just want to add something. I think for me, one of the most touching and memorable things that happened in that trip is the amount of times we do something for no reason and ends up being very impactful. Like, we were all just tired. We were hungry. We just wanted to go home. But for some reason, we felt like we needed to stop there for no reason, right? It's just a street or village that got demolished, right? What are you going to go see it? And that was one of the most impactful things. More than once, you have 10 patients come in with the same exact symptoms, but one of them sticks out for no reason. We already know their symptoms. We already know everything. We already know what's going on. But for no reason, you and I start fishing for something, and you find something. We found something, right? That happened multiple times where like somebody's pushing us. It's like, no, just keep going this way. It's like reading the book of Acts. Why'd you go there, Paul? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And then you see his work coming through. And that happened to me so many times in that trip. I think we had that conversation in the car, like the amount of times that for no reason we decided to do something, and it ends up being a blessing for, like, I think Euphemia was more of a blessing for us than we were for her.
For sure. Yeah.
Even though, like, where she was in life, she was more of a blessing for me than I was for her. That's how I feel. And just that experience. So that was one of the most memorable things for me.
I actually have a question because it's something it gets asked to myself, and I'll ask it to George, just because he's one of the most honest people you'll meet. So I used to get asked, it's like, hey, there's a lot of need here in America, right? And some people don't realize monetarily wise, we do more here because the dollar goes a lot further, obviously, in Guatemala than it does here. But monetarily, we spend more money here, but people see the impact that we do overseas. So one of the questions is like, hey, why don't you help here, which we do, but the people that don't know would ask that. And it's like, for someone like you, that you're one of the biggest givers that I know, what would be your answer to that if someone asked you, hey, why don't you just focus on America?
Well, we have water here, so you can be homeless. You can be whatever here, in America. But if you come to my office, I'm going to give you food if you're hungry. You're going to get water here in America, anywhere, there is no resource like that there. This lady had nothing. That was something I wanted to say about her, when, I've seen poor people, I've seen poverty, we've seen it there, but I've never seen somebody with nothing, and
yeah, not even family, nothing.
Yeah, correct.
Alone.
She had nothing.
Yep.
And that's very humbling.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say something to that too, but, getting to work with the APAC, like, you mentioned we work with organizations here, we get to work with the APAC and a lot of different organizations, and there's resources, like you mentioned, and there's, we find a lady like Euphemia here, we take her to HHS, or we take her to one of those, WIC or whenever one of the government organizations, and they can fill out an application and within a few weeks probably have some sort of either governmental, if not governmental, some sort of private help. And like you mentioned, there's nothing like that there. There's organizations like the Millan Foundation and others, but there's nowhere you can take her and be like, hey, please take care of her. And so that's, God's telling us, hey, you're the person that those people need to be coming to and say, hey, help this person.
The best explanation that I ever got was actually from Mr. Steve Moore that runs the hospital, because obviously, he comes from the music industry world, and he get asked that question. It's like, why are you helping the people down there? And his explanation is safety nets, right? Like there are issues here. There are people that need help, but he said here we have more safety nets, and there are no safety nets, and so people fall by the wayside that might need something that we consider minor, but there it's a big thing. Like, you don't walk around the streets here and see kids with cleft lips or crossed eyes that a simple surgery would fix, and there it's almost like impossible to get. Some of these kids that we're able to help have never even seen a doctor. Some of the people that we treated, like, to them ultrasound machines like a piece of equipment for outer space, right? You could almost say that. So the safety net thing is a big explanation that I start using now.
And I want to add too, it's easy to say that when you haven't been to a place like Guatemala, because you just don't know what you don't know. And after going there for myself, I kind of used to think the same thing. Like, there's so many people that need help here, but they have no access to help. And Ethan knows, you go to a hospital in America, most of them, they can't turn you away. They have to treat you. If you come in and you need help, they don't have that there. They don't have resources. So and they're so grateful for help. I think a lot of things get taken for granted in America. And there's a lot of entitlement, but because they don't have anything, they're so grateful. And it just makes it so much more rewarding to help them, to me.
Yeah, their need is on a totally different level. And I do love that safety net analogy as well, because even if you were there and you wanted to get help or do things, you're so poor you don't have a car. There's no buses really that get you around. There is no doctor in the village, or it's just not something that if you wanted help, you couldn't go get it. Like here in America, you can always, if you're motivated and there's something wrong, you can go to a church, you can go to different organizations, nonprofits, and there's help there. There's no real help there. I think a prime example is what you had, a woman that was her 5th pregnancy. I don't know if you recall.
Yep.
Well, 5th pregnancy. She's never seen a doctor. That was the first time she's ever had like an exam during her pregnancy. And that is just mind-blowing. You know, they just don't have the resources there. So that's why I know we give our time, or that's what I've done in the past, other missions like you have. When you see the need is that bad and it's on another level, that's when you're like, okay, I got to step up, you know, and that's what we did. And I'm super proud and honored to be in this circle of people that are doing that. All right, I'll grab another question. All right, let's see what we got here. What's the funniest thing that happened while you were out working or exploring?
I got this one.
All right.
I think we all know what it is, right?
Okay, so I think it was probably the second day at the first school we went to, and there was like a few patients left, and I had an anatomy survey to do on this woman.
That's for a baby, anatomy
for a
survey.
baby. So I'm looking at the babies, you know, all the things, and we were wondering. We thought she had somebody waiting, or we asked her if she had anybody waiting that wanted to see the ultrasound. So Lily had gone out and asked for the woman that she said the name was Brenda. So Lily went out and asked for Brenda, and someone stood up and said, "I'm Brenda," and sat down. She had a little girl with her. So I'm doing the scan. They're loving seeing the baby. They're laughing and smiling. And Lily had said, "Are you excited about it was a boy. You excited about like her cousin or something?"
No, you did the scan and we surprised her. You said, "Are you ready to find out what you're having?" And the lady said yes. And you said it's a boy. And then the little girl and Brenda were really excited. And I said, "Are you so excited about having a little nephew?" She's like,
"That's what it was."
"A nephew?" I said, "Yes." And she's like, "That's not my nephew." I said, "Well, I thought that was your sister-in-law." And then the lady that you were doing the ultrasound on said, "No, that's not my sister-in-law. That's not my Brenda.
She's nothing to me.
She's nothing to me."
Just a random lady that.
And I said,
walked
"Oh
in
my
there.
goodness, so we have the wrong Brenda."
So we were like, "We're so sorry." So we walked them out, and then we got the real Brenda back in, and we're showing the real Brenda. And I swear she didn't smile once, and she looked, the fake Brenda was more excited. So that's kind of like, we tell that story and we all just die laughing because it was just funny how someone that wasn't even related could have so much joy watching an ultrasound, and the real relative didn't seem like she could care.
I think to me, the part that I laughed at the most was when the fake Brenda was asked, "Well, why did you come in here?" She responded with, "I've never seen one before. I thought you wanted me to see one." So she thought we just picked a random patient. Brenda, you won the prize of the day. You get to see an ultrasound of a stranger. And I don't know if we can post the pictures or the videos, but if you're not watching, those were by far the best and happiest group of people. Yes. And it was, you can't even stage it, like perfect. Everybody smiling, happy. Little babies wanted to see the ultrasound. It was
exactly. That's
hilarious.
why I took the picture, because they were so full of joy. It was incredible. I was like, wow, she's so excited for her sister. Even the little cousins up there smiling, being held up, get to see the picture. So I'm there snapping away. And then about 30 seconds later, find out it's not even family.
But it goes to show how that ultrasound was so impactful for that town, that someone would be like, "Oh man, I get to go in there and watch an ultrasound," where here you put it on Facebook, you probably get any takers.
And in honor of Brenda, that's the ultrasound machine's name now, Brenda.
Yeah, so the Millan Foundation has acquired an ultrasound machine, and they named it Brenda. So that's exciting.
It's our mascot now.
So we're gonna have one more question, and we'll run it through it quickly, and then we'll end this.
Yeah, I already got it. So. All right. How did you see the foundation's values, faith, community, outreach, connection, in action during this trip to Guatemala?
George, Ethan?
That one's kind of hard to answer quickly like that. And we saw, I mean, just from the story from euphemia to the kids, to the water well, to everything else we saw, it's kind of difficult for me to how I saw it all. I saw a church in action, right? That's what it became. I saw a church doing everything that we were commanded to do. I saw like I didn't feel like I contributed anything when I saw everybody else working around me, and just the faith part. We didn't know what we were doing, but everything lined up. We didn't. I was literally 10 minutes before we found out. I was asking Leo, like, I don't even know where to go get medications, and then we found a way to get medications, right? So that's not a 30-second answer. That is a lifelong answer. It was yes is my answer.
It's like the whole podcast that we've been doing answered that question. Like all the different aspects, everything we were talking about, faith, working together, it all just came through.
Well, Ethan, you got an office out of the deal,
Yeah. And talk about the connection piece. Like, I mean, we couldn't do some of the stuff we're doing now without the connections we have, with Mr. Moore and in the Moore Clinic, and then, some other connections that we made along the way. We couldn't do the follow-up, or we couldn't, they're the ones on the ground every day with the kids while we're here. And so that connection piece is just as important as even us being there, because without them, we couldn't give them follow-up. So it's really important to have those connections with groups like the Moore Clinic and Millan Foundation and with 𝗀𝗁 and the groups we work with. So that connection piece is also super, super
For me,
prevalent.
I always say, and you'll hear me saying business a lot, but it applies even more to this, is relationships, right? So we're tied in together now. I feel hopefully you're not joining a cult, but it's like the relationship piece is genuine, and all of you are genuine. And I loved every piece of it, and that's how these relationships are with from Pastor Hector to Sergio to everybody really that does a lot of the legwork down there. We go down there for a week, even though it's a ton of work. There's a ton of follow-up for you guys that there's no glory in, and it's amazing to see that people are willing to do it, and there's no limelight, but it's going to be a lot of lives helped.
Well, I'll from my observation, last time we went, you and I and Scott drove around, we viewed things and assessed things and told people we can do this, we cannot do that, these things. But the kitchen we were painting was told it would happen, and it did, so yeah, I see it. I saw a school, we all saw the school that that's been built, and all. There's just so much happening there, and so yeah, I see what the foundation's doing.
And it's hard to explain unless you go, right? So I've always told people, it's just kind of before we had the foundation, we'd been doing this for years, and it was hard to explain, and it still is. A lot of people still might not be able to picture it, but I've always seen it as like, what if we were in those situations? And my family comes from a really poor background, and so does Lily. So for me, it's a little bit easier to relate. But those of you that have kids or nephews or whatever, if you see a little kid, it's like at the end of the day, whether it's here in America or down there, that you see a little kid in the street, someone loves that kid exactly like we love our kids. And what would they do to help them out? And then without being able to do it, for me, that's the part that makes me have to feel obligated to help, because what would I be doing for my grandson if he needed a surgery and I didn't have the money to do it or the resources? And so that's why it's hard to stop doing it.
I feel like we could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Well, we saw what's going to happen to some of them. Some of them are past the point of treatment that'll even cure their problem. So they're either going to have to live with it or they'll die of it, and, you can't help everybody as much as you want to, but it's just part of it.
Yeah. But we're trying, and Leo and I, and the foundation, we see the work that you all are doing behind the scenes. People may not know what you're doing, but Ethan works on his, free time, coming to the office, and along with Scott, they're putting together a plan for the patients that we all saw. George was behind the scenes, also doing what he does best and making these wells happen. So thank you, Kim and Daniel. You are getting materials together and supplies together for our next trip. And that's huge for us and for the people in Guatemala. So we thank all of you for everything, for all the hard work and the free time that you're putting in. And you guys don't have to. You're doing it, and this just shows us and everybody else that you all have a truly huge heart. So we thank you.
Yeah, we couldn't have picked a better group to be affiliated with. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
I want to tell y'all that you're so inspiring. Someone needs food, done. Someone needs medication, done. You made it happen, and you changed so many lives, and you're just so humble about it. And I love y'all so much.
Thank you. We love you too.
We're going to figure out a way to get the trash cleaned up, though.
Yes, sir.
We're going to work on that
we're gonna
trash.
Start GoFundMe to raise
I gotta
trash
go get our
bags for
kids.
We didn't
George,
get trash
'cause that's his
bags.
passion. So
We're going to ship trash cans.
yeah. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. And again, we could, I think, talk for hours. Those of you that don't know us, we've built a long life a bond here, and we're excited to continue this. And thank you again. And stay tuned, because we got a lot of work to do, and we're excited, and we are going to do it. That's the exciting part. So thank you all. God bless you, and hope to continue doing great things.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. God bless
thank
you
you.
too.
Visit our website to stay up to date with everything going on at 𝗙𝗺foundation.org. Thank you for listening to Millan Foundation Conversations. And until next time, do the next kind thing.